What's up everyone? Alex here. Regardless of the kinds of memories we have of school, it certainly can't be denied that the experience helped shape us into the people we are today. Rean Schwartzer is one such man. Having just graduated from Thor's military academy, Rean is a man shaped by his academic experiences, with fond memories of the time he had with his classmates in Class 7, ultimately propelling him into a fate that has now bestowed upon him the title of Hero of Erebonia. Trails of Cold Steel 3 sees Rean embarking on a brand new adventure. However, much like Rean's future, there is an air of uncertainty surrounding Cold Steel 3, with fans worrying about the quality of the localization and the game's surprising amount of reliance on a series that never got released in the West. With so much at stake, does Trails of Cold Steel 3 manage to overcome its challenges? The Trails of Cold Steel series are turn-based RPGs with a heavy political story infused with deep character development. Cold Steel 3 is the third game in the Erebonia arc, and the second Falcom game NIS America has localized for the West. The Erebonia arc describes the entirety of the Trails of Cold Steel series, which involve Rean and Class 7's adventures through school, warfare, and their interactions with the various political forces permeating the entire nation of Erebonia. Cold Steel 3 begins a brand new storyline in the series, thrusting Rean into the role of instructor, to which he is unacquainted with. He is accepted at the newly established branch campus of Thor's military academy, crudely described by its principal as a trash dump. As fate would have it, Rean is assigned to be the homeroom teacher of a brand new Class 7, with only 3 students joining him. Una Crawford, hailing from the newly annexed state of Crossbell, Kurt Vander, a descendant in a long line of protectors of the Imperial family, and Altina Orion, a mysterious young girl who Rean and the former Class 7 encountered multiple times in the past. Together, the new Class 7 is tasked with special operations missions of various levels of importance, further affecting the ever-changing political landscape of Erebonia, while uncovering the various machinations happening in its hidden underbelly. I find that the uncharted waters that Rean is navigating is an appropriate metaphor for the many things Cold Steel 3 is trying to accomplish. For one, the developers at Falcom decided to roll back any new mechanics they introduced in the previous game. That means things like Level 2 Quartz and Overdrive no longer exist in Cold Steel 3. In turn, the game features brand new break and order systems, along with new ways to experience combat. Each of Cold Steel 3's battle commands can now be input with a press of a button, similar to how Persona 5's combat input system works. You press a button, whether it's on the D-pad or the face buttons, and you're whisked into the appropriate menus right away. Also, battles happen on the actual exploration field, removing the necessity to move the combat into an exclusive arena, making for some interesting battles with irregular shaped battlefields later on. Both of these changes make transitions in and out of combat quicker than previous games, making battles feel fresh and responsive. The break system works by rendering the enemy unable to move when the meter below its life bar is depleted. Additionally, any attack that hits broken enemies will cause the enemy to become unbalanced, allowing you to follow up with an additional assist attack. To complement this, the order system allows the player to cast buffs on the entire party that lasts for several turns, without using someone's turn to activate. There's orders that allow you to reflect any attack back to your opponent, orders that can increase your offense or defense, and even orders that can massively boost your break damage. It's due to the combination of these mechanics that strategies of delaying enemy turns, which are still present here by the way, feel less viable compared to the increased focus on breaking enemies. In fact, bosses now go into an enhanced mode when near death, giving them boosted stats, but in turn also leaves them vulnerable to attacks, with the game's tutorial urging players to break them. While the bosses early on do seem a bit challenging thanks to these new enhanced modes, quickly making the game's break strategy unfeasible, there's nothing that a well-timed S-Craft or 2, or 3 or 4, can't defeat. The metaphor of Rean's new role as instructor, and the uncertainty that surrounds it, also applies to any new players that are thinking of starting Cold Steel with Part 3. The amount of terms I used in the previous parts alone should give new players pause, as these are ideas that have been a staple of the series for a very long time. The topic of which game in the Trails of Cold Steel series you should start with is covered much more comprehensively in another video, link shown, though I can elaborate a little bit on one of my responses from said video. Trails of Cold Steel 3 is a perfectly valid starting point in the series, from a storytelling perspective. However, the game does give you a lot of information to absorb within the first hour. That being said, the pacing in which Cold Steel 3 teaches its concepts to the player is far better than how the first Cold Steel does it, even with its many tutorial displays at the beginning. During this time, Rean serves as your guide through orbments, quartz, the game's battle system, and the like, and I couldn't help but think that Rean would easily endear himself to new players just by his mere instruction. Yes, there will be moments where new players will feel a little bit out of place when images of the former Class 7 appear on screen, but Yuna and Kurt serve as perfect avatars for newcomers here. Unlike new players, Yuna and Kurt may know a thing or two about Rean's recent celebrity, but they're just as unaware of many of the events of the previous two games as any new player, though they're just as bright-eyed and bushy-tailed to be experiencing what the world has to offer as any newcomer willing to give the series a chance. And then, there's the heavy lean of the Cold Steel series towards politics. Generally speaking, I'm not a fan of political storylines. They tend to be intensely plot-driven, with little to no regard to the cast of characters advancing the story. The Cold Steel series has always done a great job of diving deep into its diverse set of characters, whether it's immediate party members or NPCs you encounter. Cold Steel 3 continues this storytelling tradition by depicting the effects of war and occupation on people. At the center of all this is the newly annexed state of Crossbell, which is at the forefront of many a conversation in Cold Steel 3. Crossbell is a crucial part of the storytelling in this game and its sequel, and due to the absence of the Crossbell games in the West, it's up to Cold Steel 3 to set the entire stage. Thankfully, the game does a fantastic job of informing players who are unfamiliar with the aforementioned games, managing to organically integrate a ton of info into the ongoing storyline. It's this increased emphasis on Crossbell that makes Cold Steel 3 feel as though the direction of the series' storytelling is further distancing itself from the events of the previous two games, and therefore establishing a common ground for both new players and longtime fans of the series who have never played the older titles. Rounding out the story are the wonderful cast of characters comprised of the new and the familiar. Members of the former Class 7 occasionally join to lend some assistance in certain parts of the story, acting more like guests than permanent party members. Some longtime fans might think early on that it probably would have been better if the former Class 7 was more involved in the early parts of the story due to how strong they've grown in previous games. After all, once you gain control of the new Class 7, they feel a lot less powerful than the former, Rean included. However, I think this was done on purpose. It allows players to admire what they once had, and fills them with a sense of longing to be with characters that they've shared adventures with in the past. At the same time, it fills new players with admiration as to what the former Class 7 was, perhaps even going so far as to encourage them to play through the previous two games. And by the time you near the end of Cold Steel 3, you'll wind up feeling the same way you did with the new Class 7 as with the former cast. That's powerful and gutsy storytelling there, and not a lot of RPGs can say that they can get away with this, given how other games in the genre tend to not have a lot of continuity. Breathing life into this vast array of characters is the voice cast of Cold Steel 3. Many of the voice actors from the previous titles reprise their roles in the game, with Sean Chiplock leading the charge and reprising his role as Rean Schwarzer. The voice performances of the new Class 7 mesh well with the existing cast, and it really helps that the actors embodied the characters in their performances, making you feel that the characters they portray couldn't possibly be voiced by anyone else. Also, for the first time ever, Cold Steel 3 has the option to toggle between English and Japanese voice acting, should you wish to change things up. Along similar lines, the soundtrack of Trails of Cold Steel 3 is my favorite in the series to date, with sweeping melodies that'll move you, and a catchy battle anthem that I found myself humming outside of playing the game. The elephant in the room is of course the game's localization. Many Falcom fans are worried that, due to Ys 8's localization mishaps, that it would surely mean that NISA wouldn't be up to the task of localizing Trails of Cold Steel 3. Your fears and worries are allayed, as the localization of Cold Steel 3 is not only really good, but also keeps with the tone set in the previous games. During my playthrough, I did encounter some small infrequent issues with the text. However, a patch was made available in the middle of my playthrough that allegedly fixes these issues. I'm not entirely sure if this patch is final, but I did play through a good portion of the game from the start just to see if I'd notice any issues, and it looks as though this patch fixed whatever lingering issues were present. And I should restate that the dialogue found in the game's main story was in pretty good shape before the patch to begin with. Either way, NISA is trying their best to tackle all these issues. At the end of Cold Steel 2, Falcom promised a new beginning was at hand, and with the much-awaited release of Cold Steel 3 in the West, the promised new beginning is here at long last. While many longtime fans will be insistent that newcomers shouldn't start with Cold Steel 3, the groundwork has been laid well for any new players to do just that, with the hero of Erebonia taking them under his wing. And for longtime fans of the series continuing their journey with Rean in Class 7, it's a perfect opportunity to catch up with old friends, as well as uncover more of those dastardly plots that they've come to love from the previous games. For fans old and new, there is a dense and detailed world awaiting you, told through a great vehicle of both story and character development. Trails of Cold Steel 3 is easily a must-have for fans of the genre. And yes, that's despite any previous relationship you have, or lack thereof, with any of the previous games in this long-running series. It's really that good.